On his list, you mentioned a sports star. That, of course, is the NFL quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers told two people, and one of those people is CNN's Pamela Brown, about conspiracy theories about the 2012 shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary. Do you believe that that is a serious point of view? Is that somebody that should be on a Kennedy ticket?
He has a right to articulate whatever he wants, and we have a right to respond however we want.
If I could just bottle what Mike Rowe did here and give it to every single Republican elected official or candidate or every political commentator that I see on television and just absorb it and let it flow through your veins whenever possible. Mike Rowe is a man who has redefined the idea of work ethic and what kind of labor we should really value in our society. His foundation, Mike Rowe Works, really spins off of his old TV show, Dirty Jobs, and emphasizes skills training, tech training, channeling people away from a four-year liberal arts degree where you don't actually learn to do anything unless you go to get a Bachelor of Science, which generally you don't get at a liberal arts school. Instead, focusing young men and young women to do things with their hands and fix things and make things. Not only will you not have college debt, but you'll be an entrepreneur more likely, and you'll actually always have customers, always have a job, kind of call your own shots, and you can actually better our society. That's why Mike Rowe apparently was on Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s shortlist for vice president. Well, CNN found out about that, and they had questions.
Well, he's very gracious, and he's very smart, and he's very direct. And I had no idea what I was really walking into, but his team was there, and they were also super inquisitive. They listened more than they talked. I wound up interviewing him. He interviewed me. We had a few laughs. It was a very friendly, very casual conversation, but he's serious. And when he talks about the things he's serious about, he leans in, and it's hard not to listen. He's serious about the debt. He doesn't want to see 34 trillion get to 50. He believes if it does, the country can't service it. Party's over. He's serious about ending forever wars. He's serious about waging a war, really, on chronic disease and diabetes and things like that. We don't agree on everything, that's for sure. And when that became apparent, he just laughed and said, "Look, I don't want to surround myself with yes men and yes women. I want people who care about the country. I want people who will tell me the truth as they see it and let the chips fall." He said a lot of stuff that was good to hear, frankly.
So when you talk about things you didn't agree with him on, I mean, is there anything you can be specific on? And did he bring up things that, as you know, Mike, have been controversial? You talk about his care for health, for example, vaccines. I mean, did topics like that come up directly?
All right. Listen, this is a really good kind of lengthy, meaty clip, and we're going to definitely play through the whole thing. So I hate to interrupt here a minute and a half in, but I just want you to notice a pattern. Whenever I see a pattern in the media and what they do, I like to point it out to you so you can see it as well, because once you see it, you can't unsee it, and it'll sort of blow a hole in what the media does to us. Erin Burnett theoretically asked Mike Rowe to come on here to talk about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and about his experience sort of being courted as a potential running mate. And now watch how every question she asks is meant to emphasize the divisions in this country, to demonize RFK Jr. And I'm no fan of the guy, but this isn't really about learning about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. or about his relationship and what Mike Rowe brought to the table. No, this is about gotcha. This is about bringing out, you just heard it. You know, did he mention about how he hates vaccines and about how he's anti-science? Did that come up? Right? Every single question. And watch how they do that and how they pick and choose which people they're trying to tear down. Because this is CNN, the group that just did the whole thing with Aaron Rodgers and Sandy Hook. And I heard this happen 10 years ago, so let's do a big breaking story about it. Now that I've pointed that out, watch what Erin Burnett does here and watch how Mike Rowe handles it in an incredibly affable way, by the way.
Not really, because that stuff has been so talked to death in the media that everybody kind of knows, all right, this is the rap. Is there anything you want to say about it specifically? Honestly, Erin, yeah, we did talk about some of that stuff, and I don't know that it's fair for me to really walk you through it chapter and verse. I told him, for instance, look, I I'm friendly with a lot of people in the fossil fuel business. That's not a secret. My foundation is supported by all sorts of people who he's sued in the past. We laughed about that and just kept coming back to, look, we're living in an extraordinary time. The headlines have never been like this. The things that we seem to agree on, we appear to agree on with a certain amount of passion. And then it just became personal, to tell you the truth. Look, I've been doing this foundation for 16 years. At base, it's a PR campaign. At base, it's an attempt to raise awareness around a couple of things that matter to me a lot. And he was very upfront about it. He said, look, Mike, that topic, education, middle class, vocational development and workforce and so forth, that's the pointy part of the spear in my campaign. It matters. And if you want to see your foundation go from micro works to macro works, I think he said, then you should think about this. You should at least consider it. And so I did.
And consider it, you mean consider the VP slot?
Sure.
So I want to ask you one thing here as you talk about the seriousness with which RFK Jr. is taking the decision that he has to make and his campaign and the people around him. On his list, you mentioned a sports star. That, of course, is the NFL quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. And I don't know if you know this, but Rodgers told two people, and one of those people is CNN's Pamela Brown. He told them about conspiracy theories about the 2012 shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary, including saying the shooting was a government inside job, that victims' families were crisis actors. Do you believe that that is a serious point of view? Is that somebody that should be on a Kennedy ticket?
I have no idea. I think he has a right to articulate whatever he wants, and we have a right to respond however we want. I have no idea what the man actually said. I did see something about it today, but I don't know what qualifies or disqualifies anybody from running for anything. You know, somebody said to me the other day, a friend of mine who saw the same graphic that you put up earlier, I think her exact question was, how the hell are you qualified to do this? And I started to explain how she was right and how I wasn't. And, you know, Bobby said something to me. He said, there's so many skeletons in my closet. If you really open it up and give it a look, and if they could all vote, I'd be king of the world, which made me laugh. You could probably find stupid stuff that anybody has said. But what really qualifies a man or woman to run for president or vice president? I think you got to be 35. I think you need to have been born in this country. After that, I don't know about qualifications. I guess we could talk experience and judgment and temperament and all of those other things, and everybody gets to weigh and measure everybody and put it all under a microscope and decide. Personally, I stopped watching football after the Colts left Baltimore, so I don't know how much use I can be on that.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Wouldn't even think we'd have a Baltimore connection like that. All right. Thank you so much.
They broke my heart, Erin. They broke my heart.
As a Marylander, I hear you. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time, Mike, and it's always great to see you.
What Mike Rowe just said at the end there is so important, and something that you need to keep in mind, because they'll do this. Whoever Trump picks for a running mate, they'll do this too. Whoever Robert F. Kennedy Jr. picks as a running mate, they'll do this too. They did this. They will do this to Trump. They are doing it to Trump right now. And they did this to Trump in 2016. Mitt Romney says this all the time. Mitt Romney says it all the time about Donald Trump, that he is disqualified. Someone who believes that, someone who did that, someone who thinks this is disqualified, would be disqualified. But disqualified is a word they use all the time. And that's something that Erin Burnett just did about Aaron Rodgers. And God, if I could just bottle what Mike Rowe did here and give it to every single Republican elected official or candidate or every political commentator that I see on television, and just absorb it and let it flow through your veins whenever possible. whenever they're confronted with, well, this person refused to disavow this racist tweet. In fact, he retweeted this person who 3 years ago tweeted something about the flat earth. And so isn't that disqualifying for the presidency? Let me tell you what's disqualifying for the presidency. You know what? I'm glad you raised the issue. Here's what's disqualifying from the presidency. If you're not yet 35 years old, and if you're not a naturally born citizen, that's it. That's it. That's what's disqualifying. And all these other things that you raise, if all of these other things that you raise as disqualifying for a candidate is personified by an individual, and that individual gets enough votes in enough states to win the Electoral College, that person is qualified to be president. Because guess who decides who is qualified to be president after those two things in the Constitution? Who gets to decide? The people through our votes, unless you're screwing around with our votes. The people get to decide, because that's what burns Erin Burnett more than anything else. That's what burns Jake Tapper and Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough and George Stephanopoulos and Mitch McConnell and Mitt Romney and a whole host of people. It burns them that somebody can, and it burns Joe Biden too, by the way. Let's not leave him out of this. Because back in the old rules, before we really had a free press, before Matt Drudge and Andrew Breitbart changed the world, when we had to play by the rules of the people in Washington, D.C. and the chosen few in the four networks, back in the good old days of 1988, when Joe Biden wanted to be president, but then they caught him as the lying bastard that he is. They caught him stealing speeches from the labor leader in England, Nick Minnock. They caught him lying about his school transcripts. They caught him lying about his SATs. They caught him lying about his grade point average. They caught him lying about where he graduated in his class. You've seen the video of him. You've seen the ABC anchors at the time saying, well, actually, Mr. Biden finished in the bottom of his class, and Mr. Biden has never done this. And when they caught him lying, he was forced to drop out of the race because at the time, the gatekeepers said that it was disqualifying. You can't have a man run for office like that. And guess what? I don't like Joe Biden. I have never liked Joe Biden. What he did to Robert Bork is evil. What he did and continues to do to Clarence Thomas is evil. What he's doing to our country is evil. But guess what? He shouldn't have been disqualified from the 1988 presidential race. He should have gone through to Iowa and New Hampshire and all those places, because it's not up to Peter Jennings or Sam Donaldson or Dan Rather. I'm bringing up names from the past that you're probably too young to remember. They were the gatekeepers at ABC News and CBS News. They were the ones, Tom Brokaw at NBC, let's not leave the peacock out of it. They were the ones who were the gatekeepers, and they were the ones who said, well, this is disqualifying. He's got to drop out now. And then he did, because those were the old rules. But they were never really the rules. The rules, as laid out in the Constitution, as Mike Rowe just said, are very clear and very simple. And if we can own this and yell back at the Erin Burnetts of the world when they try to play this stupid game, then we will win. The Access Hollywood tape. Have you heard what's on that Access Hollywood tape? That is disqualifying. It's over. The race is over. Nope. You know what's disqualifying? If you're under 35 and if you're not a naturally born citizen. After that, we decide. We decide. We decide who's qualified to be president or not. Let us be smart enough to make that decision. Let us have the wisdom to decide who our leaders are and are not to be. But Erin Burnett, she's playing by these rules. Aaron Rodgers believes this thing about that. I don't believe that thing about Sandy Hook. I said stupid things in the past too. Does that disqualify? No. You know what? If the American people know what Aaron Rodgers thinks and they decide, yeah, you know what? I'm fine with that. I want him to be president. Then he's qualified. And I think it'd be kind of cool if Mike Rowe ran for office. Although I think he's too good for that.